What is up, everyone? Welcome to NFTs in the Arena with your host, Mike and John. It is the night or the day or the morning before the Ethereum merge, as I think a lot of crypto enthusiasts, NFT enthusiasts, or anyone, I suppose, operating in the Web3 space are excited about, nervous about, but with much anticipation. I would say it's one in which I think if you've been invested in the cryptocurrencies for the time I think most people have that are still involved there, you would know how important this means, but not everyone knows what it means. And that's a bit about what Jono and I will cover through tonight and today for Jono. And Jono, first of all, how you doing, man? How are you anticipating this merge to go?
Hey, what's up, Mike? What's up, peeps? Hope everybody's doing super cool and actually super excited for this. Damn, it's a universal moment, dude, when this happens. So exciting times. How it's gonna play out, it's like I'm no buff in this space, dude. Like I think it's super technical what's going on with the beacon chain being around since 2020. Like a bit of a side chain, actually executing the whole proof of stake concept. But now bringing it onto the main net. This is exciting and at the same time very nerve-wracking because apparently there's some validation tests and some I don't even know the technical terms, but they need to have some time before once it goes live to actually validate and prove that this has gone well before everyone starts to celebrate. Apparently this is what's going to happen. So yeah, this is right now, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that are probably, as you use the word, buff, people actually are that are very much understanding of the technical aspect and what the true changes mean. Because I think a lot of people that are not very into the space immediately think, and obviously they've read along, and I think it's typically these people on social media trying to effectively say that with this new merge, there'll be reduction in gas fees and the likes, which is truly not the case. It's not very true. I mean, I would imagine that's their future ambitions, but with this immediate merge, I doubt that's going to be the case. And I think the first thing is that I think a lot of people that are watching or listening, actually, what does the merge mean? And I think for a lot of people, if you had listened to our previous podcast that we've had various guests on, one being Cahill Camden, who's actually very involved in helping cryptocurrency companies spearhead their projects and get 10x growth. And we spoke about it in our previous episode where they're moving from a proof of work to a proof of stake. And it's a consensus mechanism. And I think that's the first thing that people actually want to know and what they want to understand. The proof of stake is now essentially reducing the reliance, particularly for miners, crypto miners, which we're all well aware of. And I think, Jono, you had a bit of knowledge with regards to the way in which miners were operating in this space, particularly because of Chris, your brother. Do you think now with this proof of work and proof of stake, what impact will they have on the miners, for example, and what opportunities will it create, do you think?
When it comes to the impact or detriment to miners, I don't have the best knowledge on that. But what I do have, and from what I've learned from currently, was like a lot of the banking institutions are looking towards this merge purely because it nullifies risk factor. And being a banking organization, the whole concept of your model is time deposits. And that's essentially what proof of stake is like taking your asset and letting it grow for itself. And this is where the banking system is waiting for this merge to go down. And once it's secure and everything's good and the validation nodes are all set, this is where these kind of organizations are going to be adopting and coming into the space a lot more prevalently, purely because of the security aspect to it. So yeah, that's how I see it panning out from an institutional or at least at a mass adoption point of view.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair point because I was reading an article by Reuters this week, and the gentleman, I think his name was Pete Schroeder, and he wrote an article that was essentially speaking to the whole Federal Reserves, particularly here in the United States, are issuing guidance for banks that are considering to move into the crypto space or have some crypto activities, which is
Yes.
already seeing now these massive archaic conglomerates, institutions trying to take part in now, obviously, to create regulations around this, which is not a bad thing. But I do believe, and what we've seen in the past is that regulations will always stifle innovation. And we've seen that
Yes.
in various industries, whether it is in the cryptocurrency space, which I'm sure we will inevitably be exposed to. I do believe that the rate at which things are changing right now, the innovations that are continuously going out, I do believe that tap will be turned off slowly in the next few years because of these regulations that naturally these government and banking systems will introduce. But I also do agree with you in the sense that they are waiting for this merge and to see what actually pans out here. And I do think it'll take a few weeks or a few days or a few weeks to actually see the true impact. I mean, the immediate impact would be something as them flipping the switch on and just completely fails. But speaking to your point with regards to testing, I do know, and I'm very well aware that they've been testing this thing for years. It's not like they've been doing this as a 6-month project that you picked up.
Yeah. Definitely.
Building, testing, failing. And like one of the things that Vitalik Buterin had said is that this Ethereum merge now is paving the way for what the next generation of crypto enthusiasts or what any form of business will actually experience. Because I think now that they've actually learned, and I think the way in which Ethereum has been structured to allow other blockchains and other service providers to become a layer on top of them, it's going to allow them now to get to the next level, right? And I don't think a lot of people understand that. And one of the things I thought about, and to be honest, I Googled this a few weeks ago, and I think it's relevant now, is people asking, is there anything that I need to do if I have my Ethereum on a Coinbase or on my MetaMask wallet? And obviously, they kind of communicated and there's nothing that you need to do. Just sit down and hold on, which obviously is going to cause some people to pull out. I do believe there's been so many fluctuations in the last few weeks. It's very difficult to pinpoint what is making or driving this. Obviously, this is a large facet of that. So do you think now with this merge, if it is successful, the price of Ethereum or the price of cryptocurrencies that are maybe designed around Ethereum will increase? And do you think it will be a significant increase?
Look, there's ultimately, if you were to look at the supply and you were to look at the market cap, you'll start to get to where the price action is of that specific token or coin. So there's going to be a natural drop off purely because there's big whales in the space that understand that they're going to be selling the hype. So all the people that are going to jump on board now post merge, because you're going to see a lot of it in the newspapers, a lot of it on the TV and social media. So that's going to perpetuate itself into the hands of a retail investor. And as a result, they're going to buy the top caps. This is just an assumption. And the Ethereum price might dip for the short term.
Yeah.
And when I say that, it could literally just do a quick little and then just start to climb again over the next, it could literally, and then dip again based on market and all that kind of nuance that can be faced in the near future. But theoretically, there's going to be more adoption. So the price of Ethereum is definitely going to increase over the next couple of months. And I do believe that it might even break its all-time high within the next year. So that's a huge prediction, because people have always said that we go through the bear market for a couple of years. But if Ethereum were to break an all-time high in 2023, or maybe even towards the end of the year, we don't know, dude. Like, there could be like huge things. If Goldman Sachs jumps on board, they buy a big stake, and then this, then this, and this, and this. Yeah, then the traders are going to win in the short term, but in the long term, the typical investor, the person that's holding their coin, is really going to benefit. The 10x, like what we were speaking about, just in side projects that are running on the Ethereum platform, that's where they're going to 10x, because seed funding is going to increase. If someone's put a couple million in, like as Goldman Sachs, for instance, if they put a couple $100 million into Ethereum and it goes up to several $billion, they're in a position to fund. Like naturally, they would feel obligated in a very virtuous way to try and build projects in the Web3 domain. So yes, I do believe that's gonna accelerate growth substantially when in big corporations that usually fund smaller projects start to see the benefits of this.
Yeah, dude. I do think that. I mean, obviously, everything's just based on opinion here. There's no facts, and I mean, I think it would be
Exactly
inappropriate to come here and claim that there is facts. But I do know one thing that has come across quite often in my research and just talking to people that are involved in this space is that naturally, like you're kind of alluding to, what if it does fail? And like everyone that I feel like has studied this and has been watching it very closely, have almost are of the opinion that the chances of this failing is almost non-existent. And I think it's really because of the developers that are behind us have been preparing this for like several years, Jono, like testing thoroughly, which I think they call it the demon as shadow forks, and like testing networks throughout all these years. You can imagine how many people jumped on board for this because they were likely being enumerated in various other ways to actually do this kind of testing, particularly within the crypto community. But this whole entire ecosystem is the whole entire ecosystem and the whole economy around it is depending on this Ethereum blockchain, like you were saying. So it's one of those things. If they were coming out, and now it's probably in the next hour at the time we're recording this, is that they are damn sure that this is going to work. But obviously, the skeptic always wants to see something else come out of this. But by myself being an Ethereum investor, I do believe that I think they've got all their checks and balances done. And
amazing.
I believe that also, like you were saying, if this goes well and now the confidence in, but to be honest, you could also argue the opposite side of that. Everyone's talking about this merge, but how many people in society even know what Ethereum is, know what cryptocurrency is, and know what a merge is? Everyone assumes that I talk to that are just these simple everyday investors and they buy a few dollars here or whatever it is in Ethereum. And there's nothing wrong with that. But my point is like this is where the education is around the NFTs in the crypto space. But they think that this merge is going to reduce the gas prices. And I think it's important to know that it's not going to do that because I think a lot of people have this assumption that you're planning some scheme around that. And I mean, I've generally been flabbergasted by hearing some people come up with these assumptions. And again, everything is based on opinion. But I think this merge is important because it's a step into the next major updates for the Ethereum roadmap. That's essentially what comes through in the video it talks about. And they talk about this, how they refer to it as sharding in 2023, which is not like, maybe that is going to be the next step, which will, I think it's going to increase it's going to increase the transaction throughput on the Ethereum blockchain. And I think that speaks to your point is that this thing can go either way, and the value of the Ethereum is, I believe, going to increase, and we may go through these ebbs and flows. But what I would love to see is the impact it's going to have on the likes of Bitcoin, Solana, and all these other cryptocurrencies. Yes.
Well, look, this is it. I hope a Bitcoin maximalist isn't out there saying, I hope it fails, because this is a good betterment for the whole industry as a collective. If this Ethereum merge goes through successfully, we're on to the next step as a human nation to actually innovate to a point where we can start to actually bring a quantum computer to fruition, because I think that's the real next step. And I honestly believe if Ethereum and blockchain is at its fullest competency, this is where we can tie in quantum computing and literally we can quantify and map almost anything. Like people are going to be, algorithms are going to be able to determine traffic just like you cannot believe. And that's based on quantitative power that will be inherently linked to transaction speed and all this kind of stuff that Ethereum is still working through. But the beauty of that is that people can fork the Ethereum chain and create even a better network, or should I say side chain, that can actually mitigate those issues if transactions or gas fees are an issue. For instance, like Polygon, pure example. A lot of people are building on Polygon purely because the transactions are so vast and actually super cheap. Why wouldn't you want to bring your customer into that, in that domain, and have them spend and transact in a very easy manner and not a cost-effective manner? But right now it's such a difficult process to actually play around in the Polygon domain, because you need to bridge your Ethereum and take it over there. And for a typical person, they don't really know how to do that. So they would either need to rely on third-party interfaces or apps or whatever to do that for them, but then run the risk of being scammed. Or we need to be patient until all this comes to fruition, to the point where it's easily accessible, just like how Facebook is to the average person. Jump on, join, connect wallets, and there we go. So yeah, I do believe that a lot of projects are working at trying to mitigate the gas fee issue, because that is going to be a big thing. Who wants to be transacting in the real world and be spending 300, 400 Rand or $150 on a transaction? It makes no sense. Currently, it's pretty cheap, because I actually brought in some Ethereum to fiat yesterday, and it was quite sublime. And I used the exchange Luno, which is a South African company. And it just was, I didn't expect it to get so easy. Like, I thought it was going to be a process. I literally sent the Ethereum straight to the wallet in Luno and converted it into cash, and it was in my bank literally 2 hours later. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. So yeah, there is a lot of progress that's happening. And the next year, the next 2 years, it's just getting more accelerated, because unfortunately and fortunately for some, it is tied to money. People need money to operate. And this is a very expensive space, because we're working with developers. They charge a lot of money. And I know the Ethereum community as a whole has put a lot of time and dedication and money into helping the developers get to this point in time. So yeah, it's actually a very altruistic movement, and I love it. And I love Vitalik. Sorry.
Interesting. No, that's I'm so glad you mentioned it. That's almost poetic in a sense. You made so many valid points. So I'm going to try and track back and recall some of them. But this whole idea of people moving now to Polygon, right?
Yeah.
I think even at Sports Finder, it's something that we're looking to do essentially to add as a fork. Because like you said, a lot of companies now have realized that there's these alternative solutions. Not that that's only cheap.
Yes.
There is. It's creating competition, which is incredibly important. So, I mean, I can understand that. And it's so crazy that you brought that up, because that is something that was almost decided this past week that is worth exploring. Based on what the market is telling you. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. And you keep touching on this whole thing of like now there's transactions between crypto banking systems, so how easy it's become. But like now you just mentioned it took a couple hours to get into your bank account. Yeah. This is the innovation that I've been telling you about. This innovation is it's moving like a snowball. But the minute the banks really get involved in the IRS from the United States, or SARS from South Africa, or any regulatory or federal board gets involved, it's going to stifle that innovation. And you're going to see a lot of projects like we've seen the last year, like that guy from South Korea. He's now they wanted to be arrested for what happened with that fund.
Do Kwon. Sure.
Yeah,
I read about that.
That's mad, because you know what I always think about when I see these guys getting reprimanded and now falling into the situation is that when they set out, they likely didn't intend on going.
Yes,
creating they were trying to create value, and obviously they got ahead of themselves, and I can completely understand. But I do feel like these kind of guys, yes, a lot of people lost money, but I think to paint a picture of them like in this negative way, and I suppose it's easy for me to say this because I didn't put money into that. But I always so interested in how these innovators, these engineers, like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they're always under scrutiny. And it's what's happening now with the crypto world and with Ethereum. It's coming under a lot of scrutiny because, like you say, it's got to have a lot of eyes watching it. And With that is also what I think a lot of people have been exposed to over the last few years, which is hackers, fraudsters, people sending out fake emails. I'm not even lying to you. In the last 3 weeks, on my email, I always get from Coinbase, supposedly, saying that there's been a transaction on my account and they've frozen my account. I need to contact them. And the email is just like coinbase@gmail.com. And then in the email that they CC you and 100 other people. So
yeah, and how many bites?
This is my point. Everyone that would be listening, I would hope that they actually realize that this is the time when scammers are out in full force, taking full advantage. So, like, you need to be careful. You need to be careful. Don't send your Ethereum anywhere. Don't get an email and think, okay, I need to move my Ethereum here temporarily till the move goes on. Because these things are around. And what will be interesting is if we start to see how these scammers and how much money they actually generated. Because you are likely going to hear in the news, because you know the media is always very biased towards these kind of things. Like they're biased towards the protection of the people that are working for Uber, Airbnb. And I get all of that, and I completely agree. But it's easy to criticize a company that's making hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. And now with Ethereum, where you really can't, yes, you can put a face to the name because you know it's Vitalik, but at the end of the day, there's so many people operating on that system that no one knows what's truly going on, let alone the federal or the banking system. So, yeah, I just think there's a lot about to change in next week, and maybe we're anticipating this more than it actually will be. Maybe it unfolds and it goes perfect and we'll carry on with our day. But I do think there's a lot of focus on it.
Yeah, look, I think the media loves drama, dude. So they're going to always try and pinpoint the little bit or the little cracks in the system just for the sake of it, because actually it's innate in human beings to dig and watch drama. Like if you were to probably look at the analytics on social media, you'll find that a lot of the views go towards dramatic shit, stuff that's actually quite negative and pessimistic. But that's just how humans are. They like to find out more about what's going to put them at risk, if that makes sense. Like we trying to find comfort by finding out as much as we can about our environment. And that could be detrimental to a lot of people because that stems to anxiety and all that bullshit. So yeah, it's quite an interesting space with the media, how they're going to play it. But I'm super excited to see how it unravels. I think it's going to be successful. I do hope that a lot of adoption takes place as post-merge, because I do think that this is going to be the future. It is the future. It's not going to even be. But like you said, with the hackers and people that are out there to scam, that's everywhere. Unfortunately, it's a lot more prevalent in the space purely because of regulations not being as high as they can be eventually. Look, there's a good and a bad side to that. Bringing in corporates, and because the whole point of DeFi is to avoid centralization at its finest, and having banking systems coming into the space to form regulation is kind of counterintuitive to that concept. But unfortunately, they're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to just fall away overnight. It's the biggest players in the space in terms of a monetary system.
Yeah, you know what's so interesting is that a lot of what we spoke about now, I think a lot of people are thinking it's still coming, and you just made a good point. I mean, I think like in 2003, that economist William Gibson said the future's already here, but it's just not evenly distributed, and it still remains today. And I think it's so prevalent.
Deep.
I think it's so prevalent now with crypto and NFTs is that a lot of the world are getting left behind because they either don't have the technology, the know-how, or the education more so. But I do believe that a lot more people are getting involved in places that you would not really anticipate. But
definitely.
It speaks to an interesting point is that I was speaking to this gentleman. He has quite a large NFT collection and it's on OpenSea. And I was asking him how he feels about the whole merge. And he was kind of saying is that, well, we will actually find, he posed the question, is it fungible after all? And he meant is that, like, will there be duplicates that may disrupt this NFT industry after Ethereum merge? And it's not something that we can't know until it actually materializes. So, like, this expected merge of Ethereum has raised the risk of obviously fraud, scams, and the whole non-fungible market. Speaking to NFTs, is that they are now concerned of the likelihood of duplicates amassing from this purely because of these scams, or now we're transitioning from this proof of work to proof of stake. What does it actually mean? Can you imagine all these individuals that purchased Bored Apes or Bored Ape yacht clubs for hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions? That actually happens and they get scammed out of that. I would imagine those individuals are smart enough now to avoid something happening like that. But I do think that this merge is going to pose a lot of issues for people that are unaware of its impact and perhaps actually over expect what the impact will be. Because I think a lot of people are getting somewhat deterred with regards to the Ethereum. And I mean, like, I don't hear people talking about investing in crypto much, like in the general public anymore, which is obviously this NFT winter or crypto winter.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot to come, and I do anticipate that this merge is going to be very good for organizations that are already operating on Ethereum. But it will be interesting to see what the downfall will be. Like, do you think if there's a little glitch or there's a little bump in the road, everyone's going to pull out of Ethereum, and that may be detrimental to the value of the coin?
I think those that are watching, well, just in my opinion, the peeps that are going to be watching and paying close attention to this merge are either one haters, or mostly it's going to be people that are in it for the long run, invested individuals. So even if something buggy happens, they're not going to be the kind that are going to pull. The people that are going to pull are the cats that are holding Ethereum on Coinbase or holding it on Luno, that doesn't really understand the domain very well, but they know that they can buy an asset via an app because they got money, they're affluent to some extent, and they just do it for the sake of it, so that they can brag about it or have some form of social entitlement around it. I think there are people that leverage it in that way. Those are the kind of people that if they were to see a negative review or hear some bullshit on the news that something's bad is happening, they're going to be pulling out if there is a bit of a downtrend, purely because they're more about the money aspect, so they don't want to lose their money. They rather make more, so they'll pull it out and wait for it to go back up again, and then they'll buy. It's just some people are just wired that way, and I think those are the kind of individuals that'll pull out if there is any negative news around this merge. But other than that, I think people are holding. They're strong. The community's strong. So yeah.
It reminds me. It's almost like deja vu of when. With a scenario that is like, it's not without precedent in this NFT market that something of this nature could happen. Like, I think one of the most popular ones or most popular NFT collections was like CryptoPunks, who actually reissued the originals, known as version 1 CryptoPunks, to fix a bug in their program. So that now leaves room for me to speculate what kind of scams or hackers can actually get involved now, because the replacements with these version 2s, I think they were airdropped to all the holders with version 1s that almost were forgotten about. But it didn't take up, and I think the community essentially won. They didn't really buy into it because the intention was to now squash the secondary market using the legal means now. And I think the community ultimately chose version 1 and they won, and they essentially now have both versions operating trading freely on the marketplace. The reason why I bring that up is because trust is a huge thing and huge issue now. And even your community that are buying into your product and into your collection will be naturally apprehensive, because a lot of the time it's difficult to put a face to the name, like you could do with other products, like Jeff Bezos, for example. So I do think that the scrutiny and the the anxiousness around this merge is going to continue for the next few months, and I'm just really looking forward to it.
Yeah, look, the NFT space is or just even with the whole hype around on Binance Smart Chain with all the rug pulls that happened last year, that happened on Ethereum as well. But it's a lot more difficult to create an ERC20 token versus what is it? I even forgot why, because I don't even do the whole Binance Smart Chain thing. But anyway, it was a lot easier to design on that platform. So hence a lot of rug pulls and people getting scammed because they're trying to make a quick buck, get in early. I was in that, that's how I got into crypto. I was jumping into these memes. I remember jumping on a call with you about Dogalon. Dogalon's eventually come to something that I honestly believe in because they had to. They didn't. They tried to follow the Shiba Inu model by giving half the portfolio to Vitalik, but then Vitalik, the OG he donated that portion to a foundation called Methuselah, which is out there to design or innovate in living longer, if that makes sense, like aging, to try and mitigate aging for people to live as long as they can. So that's what their research and the funding is around. So I was like, oh, wow, this has actually become something quite important because the community is trying to back that project now. Because as that comes, or should I say scales, from an innovative point of view, they'll start to make their mark in industry. And as a result, the whole community will rise. So yeah, there is potential with things that wanted to be just a meme to try and generate funding that can become something. But intrinsically, you want people that have a vision to try and solve problems, worldly problems, and bring equality to all. And this is something I heard from on a podcast with Tim Ferriss and Naval. They spoke about the next Steve Jobs will be in crypto because of the whole regulative aspect to it. The typical Steve Jobs of the 80s or 70s or 90s or whatever you want to call it would be cancelled in a typical organization today because of the stigma attached to someone trying to be themselves and be authentic and actually drive their vision the way they want to amongst people that are, for instance, more superior than them. Like, for instance, his time in Atari when you walked in barefooted, smelling like shit, living on a couch, in university. That kind of stuff was kind of still accepted at that time. He left the company, but right now, in this day and age, that kind of thing isn't really accepted. So hence why the Steve Jobs of today will be in crypto and busy designing, and we could even call Vitalik a pure example of that, because if this comes to or scales to the point we all believe it can, then this dude is going to be the next Jesus, right? Because it's going to be the technology that's really going to bring. So yeah, it's going to bring some beauty. It's really going to make a difference to humanity, dude. And
your answer was typical John fashion, but I honestly thought you were going to resign at least along like the likes of Elon Musk, or maybe if you want to be. But anyway, John, I think we've come to the end.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. Again, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as to our social media channels. This is now another week's episode now, and this one will be one in which we look back probably in the next few weeks and months, and look back at it and see what we discussed here. And we will do an episode a few days after the merge just to see what's going on. And this will be, I think, a big part in history, as John has said. Let's see what's going. Let's see what goes on. And I think one thing I would say and leave off with is that I think we are about to see the next frontier of blockchain technology next year. From now until 2023, in this period of time, I think there's going to be a lot of innovation, a lot of movement, and it's super fascinating and exciting to be in this space. John, as always, do you have any parting words?
Yeah. I got some. You know what? In an age of trust. Yeah, this one is just like based on like our conversation around trust. Like with this being an age of trust, I honestly believe we've moved out of the industrial revolution, all that. Now we're in the age of trust. Just be true to yourself. That's the main thing. You know, if you can hold true to that, the world's your oyster, my man. Oh, everybody.
Yeah. Wow, good. Take care, John. Thank you, man.
Shot, bruv. Thanks, man.